All right. We are live. It is Sunday, February. What is today? February the 6th. And we are live. Good morning, Vaughn and
Good
Jay.
Good
Thank you
morning.
all
morning.
so much for being with me this morning. We are going to go a little slow this morning to give people time to join. And if we don't see any people joining, we're just going to have our conversation and they can catch up with us later. I know it's a little early on the West Coast, but East Coast might be brunching today. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day on the East Coast. So if I wasn't doing this, I might be out brunching myself. So
Mhm.
It is.
I'm surprised the sun's out here. It's cold. It's so cold here in Ohio.
it's cold, but the sun is out and it's beautiful. And I'm ready for spring and summer. That's my jam. So
Do you
let's
have
get
any snow right now?
No, thankfully. So we've had snow 2 weekends in a row. So this weekend we did not get any snow, and I'm grateful. So let's jump into the conversation. This is Creating Home, a tiny house series, and this is the conversations on intimate spaces. And this morning I am joined by Vaughn and Jay. And this series, as I've shared on social media, as I share, as we're talking, I believe that our homes and our journeys within the tiny house movement, and you all don't live in a tiny house like I live in, but still your journey in van life and the work that you're doing tells a story, and it tells a story about, whether intentionally or unintentional, it's telling a story. And I think for most people that are in this space, I believe that there is always intent in our decisions as we move into this space, intent in your design. And that is what I want to explore in this conversation. So I thank you both for joining this morning in the conversation. And I'm going to ask you both to introduce yourself and kind of give us some of your background and tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started talking.
Well, thanks for having us. Jay jokes. He was joking this morning. He said, I gotta meet this jewel. What did you say to me? He said, how did
Oh, how'd
How
you talk her into doing
how
a
did I talk
live?
her in?
Because she doesn't
Jay,
like to do anything live.
I got skills, Jay. I got skills.
because when she asked, I was like, oh boy. And then after I agreed, I was like, immediately, I think it was 24 hours later, I said, I sent you an email. I said, because I kept thinking, what did I do?
You're
And a
gonna
lot of
be
that, me and my
just
sister were,
fine.
yeah, we were talking
Slide over a
this
little
way,
bit towards, no, that way. Yes, because we
this way.
missing party. The way towards Jay a little bit so we can see all your beauty this morning. There you go. Y'all, y'all just be a little close this morning.
I've been cleaning, so I got my rag on. I can hear my sister now. You really on there with your hair tie on? I'm like, look, I was cleaning.
You look good. Jay, she's avoiding introducing herself. Come on, Vaughn. Introduce yourself.
Well,
Or Jay,
I'm
you go,
Jay.
Jay.
I'm Jay. Well, I'm a electrician by trade. I'm in the IBEW union. So, I travel, can work anywhere in the United States. Right now, working around the home base, but that's where a lot of the vantage and came in with my travel because I work all across the United States and sometimes I'm out of the country.
Okay. All right. Vaughn.
Hands on. I come from the housing industry, housing and relocation in Las Vegas. I was in it a little bit over 20 years. I moved to Las Vegas in 95. I was offered the job. I was in Illinois at the time, and I was searching for other housing jobs out of the state, somewhere warm. And I end up getting a call back to come out. When can I come out to interview? I was there in 2 weeks.
Okay. You're
So
ready.
when
They didn't have
I
to
was
ask you
ready.
twice.
No, no. So when I went out there, the general manager was from Boston, and she really took me under her wing. And I mentioned one thing after, like anyone would interview, all the questions. I said, I'm bringing my son. I was a single mom at the time. And she says, okay. And so I asked about the apartment because they give you um 50% off. I said, that works. I said, there may be some times where I need to actually leave and pick him up from school. Can I bring him in the office? Once she agreed with me, and she said, I'm not going to let you out of my sight. You're going to come here and work for McKinley. Because I did have a choice between Vegas and Ann Arbor, Michigan. I was like, I'm not going to another cold spot. I'm going to Vegas because they were building 95. It was so new. I took that job, and Jewel, I tell you, that was the best decision that I've made. I had never left home before. I'm,
Okay.
from Illinois, but it's a small town. And I learned a lot about corporate housing. I learned a lot about snowbirding, because the relocation part of the department there, you had to know how to relocate snowbirds. I had never done that in Chicago, but she said she was willing to teach me, and she did.
And so that
Corporate
kind of
account,
introduced you into the concept of
snowbirding.
snowbirding and
Hmm.
your journey. Okay, so that makes a lot of
Hmm.
sense. So I'm going to share your van in just a minute. But I want to talk before I even share the pictures. I want to talk to, and obviously I know the story, but your entrance into van life. So I know it was kind of right at the start of the pandemic, and we're in quarantine, and Jay needed to travel for work, and you kind of had to um, start thinking about how to travel safely during with the travel restrictions. So give me a little background of what that conversation between the two of you all looked like, what your thoughts were around that time, and then how it connected to van life, and then I'm going to share your van.
Well, at the time, I was traveling solo. I would go for work through the week and come home on weekends, and she'd be
Okay.
here at the home base. So
But I was working
when I came
at the
home,
hotel.
she had an idea. She says, "Well, when you come back home, I want to talk to you about something. I have an idea." you
Okay.
know and so that's, she had been looking on the internet, and she always did watch the tiny home things, and then she says, well, I found tiny homes on wheels.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and she presented the idea. It's like, oh, okay, then the light bulb goes off, and so that's a way that we could travel together. And
Mm-hmm.
especially with the way COVID started to hit, it was a safe way to travel. The only time we really had to be around other people would be going in the grocery store.
Okay.
So,
So
that
let
was a
me
during that.
let me make sure I'm sharing my screen. Um, Vaughn, you're looking on the live.
I'm actually,
Do you see your van? I think you see your van.
I just looked. I just hit the live on the laptop. It's buffering.
Okay. Okay.
I see it. Yeah.
Oh, somebody says my voice sounds low. Hang on just a second. Thank you.
So there's the van.
Yeah, I see the van.
Okay, so y'all see the van. Let me get my sound together. So let's talk about you all talk about the van, and I'm gonna work on my sound. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the heads up that I need to work on my sound. You all talk about the van. So tell us what kind of van this is, Jay or Vaughn.
Well, it's a Dodge Ram ProMaster. It's the high top van. It's if you've seen the Amazon vans, you've seen the same style van.
And what's the wheelbase?
It's the 159-inch wheelbase, so it's the long wheelbase extended. So we want to try to get as much room as we could inside. It's like when it comes to van life, every inch counts.
Oh, it does.
Absolutely.
It
The same.
does.
Yep,
An
that's
inch is like a
the
foot.
same with tiny houses. Absolutely. Okay, so
It does.
now I've got the interior of the van. So this looks like when you started insulating. Can you see the?
Not yet. It does. It hasn't popped up. But
Okay,
we
so
still see the van.
it's the picture of the back of the van, the insulation when you all first started the work.
Yeah, that was the first stage. This If it's silver, that was the
Yep.
sound deadening. So it's
Yeah.
called kill mat.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
line inside of your vehicle with kill mat, and that helps alleviate road noise
Okay.
when you're traveling.
All righty.
Okay. I don't really see it coming. It's not coming up on my. It's there, but I don't know if it's frozen.
Okay. And then so I'll just kind of direct you, and we'll talk about the picture. So the picture that I have up right now is the entrance to the van. So you can, it's right. And Vaughn, this is one of, you have little quotes and things throughout the van and through the tiny house we're going to talk about that I just love. So this is the entrance, and where it's got the travel sign, the travel, the only thing you buy that makes you richer. I love that.
I found those little reminders just while we're on the road because we have a few in the house. And I just thought they were not only just for aesthetics, but it was just important to have them. And the bedroom area where you see the one in the back, it says, "This is our home. This is us."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for me, I I wasn't afraid to try this. So I wasn't really sure with Jay. I said, when he tells you that, I wanted to, have a talk with him. I said, he said, first he said, "Oh gosh, what is it about?" But I told him, I said, "Babe, if the company is sending you out of state, I mentioned that I was working. That was not when COVID was, because we had came back from Germany. So I wasn't, because the hotel hadn't hired anybody back. And I decided just to stay off. So once we decided to travel together, I said, let's save the money and figure, I got another way we possibly, if we both agree, that we can travel a little bit safer, because everything was going on with the CDC. No one was really knowing a lot of answers, just some basics. And then we obviously went to the YouTube school, because Jade having electrical, I knew how to, not blueprints per se, but I had been on the property, so I'd seen a lot of how they were designing the new home. So it was just the plan, and of course the YouTube. And I told him, I said, if we can do this, um, I said, let's just find a pre-owned van.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't mind it being pre-owned, but Jay was like, no, it's going to be new. And I was like, why? I was like, why? This is a new lifestyle. We don't know yet. He was like, well, because I don't want any breakdowns in the first few years. Let's get it new.
Yeah, we're going to be traveling from one coast to the other, and and maybe in some isolated areas and places like that. So I didn't want to have to worry about breaking down anywhere and trying to
Yeah,
get
that
help or
that that
tolls.
makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
I've got a picture up of the kitchen,
I
and
can't see it.
I know. And then I'm sharing one of the pictures you shared with you. It looks like breakfast is getting ready to be cooked, and you're out. You can see the view out of your window, and it's gorgeous. This is sometimes like when I see you on Instagram, when I consider unfollowing you because you're over there cooking something, and you're making me hungry.
That
But
that was in the neck of your woods. That was in South Carolina too.
it's
We were on a
gorgeous.
golf. Yeah, we were. There was a golf course not too far. It was just right off the beach. It was Apache. What was it, Apache?
Campgrounds.
Yeah, Apache campgrounds. We try to look for campgrounds that obviously are, safe ones, but also too close to the water if we're in, the Carolinas or Texas. We've done the same thing. Um, but we stayed there probably about a week. About a week. What was important to me, well, both of us, when we said we need a bed, because watching the YouTube with all the different types of um, builds and decor. So the kitchen was important, of course, as we wanted to cook. We do have the solar panels, the shower, toilet combo. We
So we're
have.
we're at the we're at the bathroom, right at the entrance of the bathroom. So
Okay,
tell
let
us
me see.
tell us about the shower and the toilet that you have.
I think I got it here too. So the shower was custom built. We custom made that from looking at what we learned on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
The cassette toilet is a Thetford, and Thetford has different models. This one is actually, you can take apart, and um, we have it inside. So it's pretty much called like a wet room. So it
Okay,
sits
right.
inside the shower.
Mm-hmm.
It sits inside. And then it has a flush button. You can put water at the top, and I still consider it to be eco-friendly because the way you flush it. That was just our choice because the gyms were shut down, and a lot of restaurants. It just depended on where you were, so it was important for us to have a bathroom. Just to go to the bathroom instead of getting out. Um,
Right.
and then the other parts that were important were just storage. So we have the storage under the bed where the batteries and electrical system is. That's all separated in different compartments underneath. There's a platform on top where it's like, it's like 18 inches high.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's underneath. Our refrigerator, I'm not sure if you saw that. I think you had that picture already. The refrigerator is under that little seating bench that we have.
We're back
Yeah,
to
so
us now.
we opted to have a permanent shower stall. Some people have temporary where you have to set it up, break it down,
Mm-hmm.
move something out of the way. And same with the
With the
beds.
bed.
We decided to have a permanent stationary bed versus something that you have to break down or like have couch seating and then you have to turn it into a bed because you'll be doing that every night. So you have
Right.
to think about
Right. Oh, absolutely. So as you decided that van life was what you were going to do to travel safely during this time, you bought the van, you kitted it out, it's beautiful. What did you learn about yourselves individually and then as a couple as you started on this journey and you're traveling? What or are there any things that you all learned about yourselves individually and then as a couple?
it. Well, it's hard for me. I learned that I actually could do with less because I'm one that holds on to a lot of things.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
he has more
Okay.
shoes and clothes than I
And
do.
yeah, like a variety of shoes and clothes and matching stuff and this stuff to wear with this and and you're limited in your space, so you're really going to have to choose what you want to take with you. You only have maybe like a container that you can put your change of clothes or what you think you might need in it. So you're gonna have to be very particular on what you take.
Well, we have the shelving. We built shelves, cabinets up top on both sides, the foot where the bed is. So the back has cabinets, the front has cabinets. And then you've probably seen some of the vans where they have the compartment over the top already. It comes with it. So with our important, we call it little office, we made little office items. And then where sheets were, like sheets and some blankets, more like blankets, because we had the vanity next to the shower
Okay, Vaughn,
that we placed there.
come on back, Vaughn. You trying to avoid my
This way?
question that no, come on back
Oh,
in this conversation.
About what you
Tell me
learned.
what you
oh, I'm
learned
sorry.
about yourself. You're fine. Just come on back. I told you I'm gonna
Um,
be bringing you back.
yes, because that's why sometimes I have notes because I'll like be off
You
topic. But
you're fine.
when I learned that let's see, a lot of it was just continuously if I put my mind to what I want, um, and there's more than one way to do something. We didn't have to stay in the hotels. Um, well, that's kind of off subject again. So, but what
Just
I,
personally, outside, was there anything within the journey, and you kind of touched on it when you said anything that you want to do, you learned anything that you want to do. It sounds like you realized you can accomplish things that you want to do. Was there anything else that you learned, or was there anything else that you all learned about how you all navigate together as a couple?
definitely team working. We've got 86 square feet. We can live in that. I
Mm-hmm.
can live in it. Like we
Mm-hmm.
have the home base, and as we spoke about before, is we didn't give that up. I could have easily said, okay, we can rent that out or sell it. Um, but it had sentimental value for Jay. He grew up in the house,
So wait a minute, we're gonna talk about that
and
in just a second. Just a second. So
mhm,
don't tell that story yet,
But
because I want to talk about the
as
home base.
yes, as far as the van, we've learned. Well, first of all, you have to like each other. Fortunately,
Right.
we already had that.
Right.
Being
Good.
in
this my
such a
homie.
small space, you learn how to get around each other. Give each other a little space when we need it. Like one person could stay towards the back of the bed and let the other person, get up front and do their thing, and then swap. And
Oh, the divider curtain too. We made that for
yeah, we
privacy. Like,
we
'cause
actually have
he gets up
a
early.
divider curtain for the bed, so I wouldn't wake her up, and with the bright lights and whatnot in the morning, she could still lay in the bed and I can get myself together for work. But yeah, you learn how to be in a closed, confined space with each other like that.
Because it's 86. Is it 86 or 96 square feet? It's 96 square feet. 96 square feet. Less than 100 square feet.
I think that's an important conversation of how a couple can navigate it, because I always get the notes, and I have 400 or so square feet where people say, oh, I couldn't do that, that's only for a single person. But I
That's
know
nice.
people
400 square feet.
people in the movement who have families and as couples, and they've said it required them to work on their relationship, work on navigating with each other and getting to know each other, even in a different way, because you have a large house and you don't know some of the I guess, minute details that you're going to figure out in maybe a small space that you realize that you have to work through. And so I think that is an important conversation to have, to say, it's even doable in a smaller space, 96
It
square feet.
is.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you have to have some conversation with each other to navigate it, to figure out.
We
So,
did. We
yeah.
did.
So, Jay, you mentioned a mindset change that you could do with less. So, has
Right.
that
Yeah.
has that translated into life, or is that just more so as you're traveling with the van, where has that
More
happened just
so,
overall?
more so with the van, but now that I've done that, I do kind of look at my closet like, oh, okay, maybe I don't need all that. So it is translating to home.
Because
Mm-hmm.
after I showed him Christine Platt's book on living with less, I
Yes.
started telling him, honey, here's a book, because Jay needs to see it. I can't, I didn't want to just feel like I have to tell him just because I'm doing it. What's good for me may not be good for him. And you have to
Absolutely.
let others let go of what you mean, I guess, so much, or let go what it is they need to let go, or to have, to live this minimalist life. You have to allow them to do it when they're ready. I can't just throw his
Absolutely.
things away and say, this is going to Goodwill, you need to give these things away. I wasn't going to do that. And I had already downscaled from, moving about, leaving Las Vegas and then Ohio for this man. But it was really easy. It was easy for me because we lived tiny when I was younger. My mom, I living with my mom and my grandmother. That home in little suburb of Chicago, it was tiny. It was
Mm-hmm.
my sister and I, my grandmother, and my mom. And but it was some fun times. We didn't have
Absolutely.
that
Right.
much. We didn't have a lot. We had fun. My grandmother had a picnic table in the back of the backyard. We would go out there while she's hanging clothes on the clothesline. We had great times. When I
Yeah.
look back, I'm like, yeah, we survived in that little tiny place, but we made it work. We
I
made it
think
work.
that's part of the conversation too. Well, one is part of the conversation for our community, Black people, people of color. Um, I know a lot of times I'll hear from them that they're not interested in the tiny house movement because it's something that we're used to. And so it's one of the reasons
Yeah,
that I always like to share my journey, to say it doesn't have to feel like um, poverty. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. It doesn't have to feel like you've given things up, but you should want to consider the benefits of the lifestyle, and what that looks like for the opportunity for wealth building, and being able to spend time with family, being able to travel, being
right.
able to design your life. There's so many benefits to the lifestyle that people don't consider as they're looking at, I couldn't do this. I've lived in a small space. We've lived in small spaces. So again, I think it speaks to that mindset change. But you were getting ready to talk to, and this is something that I wanted to also speak to. So you all have the home base. You're not full
Hmm.
time RVers. You have the home base, and you shared that it is a family home. I believe Jay's family home, and it was
Mhm.
important to you all not to give the home base up. It was important to you not to, there was an opportunity, maybe you could sell it and do something different, but it was important to you to keep that home base. And let's talk about that piece of it, if you don't mind.
When we made the decision, and I just want to just touch on one thing you mentioned as far as making the decision to live tiny. We made a decision to live tiny because of Jay's job,
Right.
because to save money instead of taking the per diem and staying in hotels and staying, like we mentioned, staying safer. When we made the decision to keep the home, we were actually about to make a decision to maybe buy a home in a warmer climate, because I really was ready to go back to a warmer climate. I had been there over 20 years of my life.
Okay.
And so Jay was on board, but I said, no, I can tell, I can sense, we need to talk about this. Jewel, once we sat down, I said, we have no mortgage on this home.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much of sell grandma's home, sell mom and dad's home.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know there are parents. If I was that parent, it made a difference if my son was in the right district. So some people don't have a desire to live in certain homes because it may not fit with the school district they want to put their kids in. But that wasn't one of the issues we had to worry about. With that said, we renovated, because had we moved to Las Vegas or anywhere there's a warmer climate, to be we talked about being snowbirds, we wouldn't have been able to do that, even with the money that we bought the van. Well, we bought the van, but before the van, let me say this. So once we decided, if we go anywhere, we put a certain amount of money down, we're in our 40s and 50s. We're still going to have a mortgage, even if it's 20 years. Well, we're both in our 50s now, but when we made the decision, I said, let's renovate. There's no mortgage. We have taxes. We have the amount of taxes once a year that some people pay for an apartment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm just gonna keep it real. If you're paying less than 2K, we can navigate being snowbirds. So all that I learned from in corporate housing and the information that I gained from those guests coming in, because I would ask questions like, how are they coming from the cold weather areas and doing it? Most of them were retired. But one thing I did tell Jay is, I don't want to wait till we're retired. We don't know what our health is going to be. We don't know what our finances are going to be. So we renovated.
Right.
And I
So
remember
keeping the home was the smart thing for us to do, and that way we could. Our lifestyle had we started traveling. Well, we've been traveling since we met, and so that was important to us to still be able to travel, and starting to snowbird through the winters became even more important. So that was a good way for us to be able to do it.
And I
it
think there's an
was
important message there, as you're saying, you didn't want to sell the family home, because as we talked through, like you said, people will sell grandma's house or property or things that are in the family that can be used as assets. But then, especially like as we're looking at, as gentrification happens throughout the country, and then, they come into a neighborhood and flash some money, and then before you know it, the house is sold. But then
that
when you look
part.
at the long term, you can't go anywhere with the money that you were given for that home, because they've undersold you. But you have to
Right.
look at the big picture to realize your home is valuable, and they're getting ready to flip this neighborhood, and the houses are getting ready, and the neighborhood is going to expand. But now you're out of the neighborhood and trying to figure out what's next. So I feel like there's a message in that piece of it, and how and why that was important to you all, for sure.
Oh yeah. And that was a very smart financial decision to do that. Because now we're going on, this is our sixth year being snowbirds. And we're by far at a retirement age. And it's a mindset, Jewel. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
It's a mindset. And it was about freedom. And I
Yes.
said, we don't have to be rich. You see the whole van life, and you're thinking, are there trust fund babies? I won't go to that subject, because anybody can live this lifestyle. But it's just not about van life. Like I said, we chose that because of Jay going to different states to go to work.
Yeah, it's just what's important to you. If travel is what's important to
That
you,
was
you can
right.
gear your life and your financial situation so that it works.
And how it
So here's
works
a
is that Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I'm
no, no,
sorry, Jill.
no, no. Go ahead.
How we're
So here's a.
able to is Jay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll be
How we're
quiet.
able to is Jay's able to take contracts through the year for 8 months out of the year and time it where we have January, February, and March to be gone for the winter and then come back. That's how we're able to work it out. And by me, I said, well, I've been working for a management company. I loved my work because I'd learned so much, but I want my own company. So it's a small company. I made my own, but we rent a property out. And I just said, well, I'm going to just create my own company and then, and take all that experience that I've had, do it for myself
So
and do
let's
it for
step back.
myself.
Let's step back a minute because you've mentioned snowbird a lot, and there was an assumption, and I see a question in the chat. At what's the question is, what's a snowbird? And I know, so you explain because I didn't realize that was something
Oh,
we should have
that's
addressed a
fine.
week
I didn't know
ago.
until I moved
Absolutely,
to Vegas.
yeah.
Snowbirds leave cold weather areas and go to warmer climates in the wintertime. And normally they're retired or semi-retired, but they've set their lifestyles up because instead of, like we mentioned earlier, instead of selling a home, going to another place, okay, so now if we had sold the home and go to, say, Las Vegas, now we're just in Vegas.
Full
Let's
time,
take the
yeah.
equation, the fact out of the mortgage. It's not that. It's just the fact you can have the best of both worlds. You may have family back east or where it's cold. You may like snow when, most people leave after Christmas, after Thanksgiving. Us now, we don't have little ones. Oh, we leave for Thanksgiving. Oh, we
Yes,
leave for Christmas.
so snowbirds are people who are going to leave a cold climate and head like to Florida, and most of the time they're living in
Yes,
an RV. They're in an RV park, or they may have a home in a warmer area, but they're leaving the cold and
right.
headed to
Yeah.
somewhere warm for part of the year. So
And even
Right.
some Airbnbs too.
yes, they'll rent out long term. So you talked about something that I want to step back to, and it's a conversation again that you and I have had offline. It's a conversation that I have had within the movement. I had an opportunity to talk about it in the feature that I did for briefly about it in the feature that I did with the new homesmiths and with apartment therapy. So one of the things that I have acknowledged, and you and I, we've talked about it, is that there is some financial privilege in the opportunity to be able to live the lifestyle. My tiny house, there's some financial privilege in having been able to build my home. The fact that you all are choosing to be van life, part-time van life dwellers versus the requirement because you don't have anywhere else to go. One of the things in this conversation for me, because I get the feedback, there's a financial privilege. Is this poverty appropriation? I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with being able to make that decision. But I think in making that decision, and being cognizant of the fact that not everybody gets to choose, that there are people who are having to do this because they don't have anywhere else to go. I think that gives me requires some responsibility on my part to do the work that I'm doing in the tiny house community around affordable housing
Sharing.
and the community, and and as I had said it before, kind of reaching back so that you're helping some of the others who don't have the financial privilege
Yes.
or who don't have the opportunity to make this choice. So that's how I see it, as no, we're not wrong for doing this, but there is a responsibility in recognizing that is the case, and then trying to reach back and bring somebody along and share some help. So we talked about this. Kind of give me you all's perspective, because I know that had been something that was important to you as well, Vaughn.
Yeah, because I had mentioned before, there's some things I hadn't posted because people only see what they see on Instagram, and they don't know the story behind it. Don't know the story behind it. Um, and that's why me and Jay mentioned, is that we have to show our families and friends and others, started with family and friends, how you can live tiny, and not you don't have to have a big home. But it was more of, how can I, now that we've done this for a few years now, to not just give back, but to teach others.
Mhm.
to be able to give that information out.
And
Mhm.
as a DIY project show, I like to tell people and show people that if I can do it, you can do it.
Of
Mhm.
course.
Mhm.
Give the information on where to go and, how they can find out how to do things and,
It's attainable.
let
It
them
really
know, yeah,
is.
it is attainable. And, we did it with our own two hands, so you can do it also.
And I think that piece of it is important because we've also had the conversation where someone will come in and look at my house as it is now. I've lived in my home for 7 years, so they'll come in and look at what I've attained now, not knowing the long term journey of what it looked like, when I first started, or even how I got to building that tiny house. So kind of like to your point, Vaughn, people see, obviously you're sharing your highlight reel, and so people see that piece of it, but if they don't get involved to kind of follow your journey and to hear your backstory, they might miss a key point to how you got there, and how they also can get there.
Well, our spending was different. When I met Jay, it was different. And I'll just share something really quick about my mom. Our home came first.
Mm-hmm.
My mom didn't go out and buy clothes or handbags and new cars. It's okay, but that was not my mom. She would go and buy a plant, new curtains, new furniture, and I saw that. Now, my dad, on the other hand, he was a little different. He's the best in fact was a fashionista, but it's all in spending differences and what's important. And it's okay to have those things, but I just buckled down because if home was important. And another example was my mother, where she mentioned, a home can be beautiful whether you're renting or buying. I never forgot that. I never forgot that. I remember my mother pulled out carpet in a rental home because she didn't like the carpet. And her friends were like, why would you do that? That's not your house. She was like, because I want to be comfortable and I want my daughters to be comfortable. Because we did not own a home until we were probably in junior high. So the moving around for me, I was
You're
telling
already
Jay,
a
I was
little
like, I'm used
nomadic.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you tell me let's go, I'm like, oh, my bag is packed. I mean, she eventually bought a home, but again,
And
home was first.
yeah, I think we've all heard the saying, it's not where you live, it's how you live.
Of course,
Uh-huh.
we both. Yeah.
It's how you make your surrounding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes home. Okay, so
Now,
I'm going to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
when you say financial privilege, I don't think so. I will say
So
this.
financial privilege meaning I had the financial means to build my tiny
Oh,
house, where someone might not have that. I had access. I had access to a job. I had access to savings.
right.
I had access to, taking a loan from my 401k. So I had access where somebody else might
That
not
was
be
what
in
I was
that
going to say.
position of, they don't have a job. They're at their last, and they're in a dire straits, and so they don't have the financial privilege. And so it's kind of like, there's white privilege, there's financial privilege, there's different levels of privilege.
Yes.
And so that's,
Right.
obviously being aware that there was an opportunity that I have that others might not have had.
And that's what we're touching on is when I said financial privilege is that the home, even though it was no mortgage, we didn't take a second out to renovate. It was money that we saved up. Touching on the van, we decided to come halfway because I took the 401 that I had from my job, the corporate job that I had. So I wasn't putting and roll it into another job. So we went half. We purchased the van outright. And the reason why we did that, because we didn't want to travel and have the interest rate and the high van note that could come with it. And we actually got it for 12K less. And I'm just saying that just because for me, it didn't have to be new. Like I said, Jay wanted new. We already know why. Um, so when we decided, I said, let's not have a note. And we got it for what, 12.5 less, because it was actually the height of COVID and the companies were panicking. The dealerships were
Mm-hmm.
panicking. So that worked out for us. It worked out for us. Um, we haven't gotten to the glamping tiny house yet, so I'll wait for that because,
Okay.
yeah, I'll wait for
Yeah.
that because a lot of people will be, I mean, you would be surprised what we paid.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good segue. So let me change my screen, and now we're going to look at the glamping tiny house. So the picture that our viewers can see is the entrance to the glamping tiny house. And so tell us where
It's
this
a
is
delay.
located.
Yeah, the delay.
Where this is located. So this is at the home base, and this is what you call the glamping tiny house.
In the
And
backyard.
in the backyard. All right. So I'm sharing a picture that I borrowed from your Instagram that shows the bed in the corner. It's now I'm sharing the kitchen area.
Uh-huh.
Kitchen area, and you can see the little refrigerator and your Keurig.
We're
And
actually in
then
the glamping tiny house right now. We're sitting in it now.
you're sitting in the tiny house, and so now I'm sharing the picture of the shower. So let's talk about what your plans are with the glamping tiny house. And again, I just kind of want to go back to you were sharing that this was also something that you wanted to do to share with family, the
Yeah, it
opportunity
was.
and the things that you've learned. It sounded like.
Yeah, and also it's another DIY learning project, showing again that just studying YouTube and basic skills, you can build something yourself that you can use for family, utilize for it's like a learning um, process or experience that you can show people that you can build your own and how you can live in it.
And family was so excited that it was a tiny home because, of course, a lot of people watch HGTV. And with COVID happening, I wanted family to feel like this is an extra space that we had. If we wanted to stay within, I guess not underneath each other. And we entertain. We love to entertain. So I wanted something where the backyard could have enough space for at least 10 to 12 guests, and whichever guest or family member decide to come over, they can stay in a tiny home. But it was a little bit even more. So we wanted them to know what glamping was,
Okay.
because with the permits you
Wait a
can
minute.
get
Go back and tell us what glamping is. So
well, the
we
glamping is
want to
like
make sure.
camping. So the
What's
toilet we have is like I mentioned.
What's the glove of it though?
What was that?
What's the glove of it? It's like camping, but
Glamping.
it's the glamping. What's the glove part
It's
of
not
it?
as rough.
It's not as yeah, it's not as
It's
rough.
It's not as
glamorous
rough.
camping. So that's what glamping is. Glamorous camping. Go
Yeah.
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
Okay.
we can rough it. We can rough it, but
It's a little more comfortable.
yeah, but my sister, she was like, I'll go with you in that van, but don't get me on one of those tents on the ground. She's
I
like,
got
no.
you.
But
That's
but I
that's
wanted them
not
to
her scene.
experience. No,
Okay.
no, no, no. She wants to stay at the Hyatt. I won't. I'd rather stay in my van.
Okay.
She'd be like, can you come out of there and come in? But um, we have the Thetford toilet. The Thetford toilet is not your regular plumbing. So when you're getting your permit, as you know, it's just that, your water system. So to be eco-friendly, we wanted to make sure we had that, but they had to learn how to use a camping toilet. So it was more than just showing family. If you decide to be a little bit more outdoors, I'm sorry.
And a
This is
lot of
planned.
people don't have experience out in the woods or camping or anything
I didn't
like
either
that.
though.
So, yeah, this is an easier introduction to camping.
Yes. It has tank for the shower, tanks for the sink that's here. And I know it's how do I explain the toilet? Okay,
It's like a porta pot.
it's a porta pot, but
Okay.
because of the cleaning part aspect of it, I said we can find an easier way. We learned that when we were in a van because they're the same type of toilet. So, like I said, it has a flushing mechanism to it where you can flush the top and clean it. You take it apart. You can do both one and two. And if we have to be honest about it, you might as well just put it out there. There's biodegradable bags.
Okay.
We learned that while we were camping in Las Vegas, and we went to the canyon too, Utah. We met the ladies that were in some of the ladies that were in Nomadland, the movie. Well, they were
Okay.
having a big meeting in the canyon. We happened to walk up on them. They're the ones who taught us about, if I'm too loud, please let me know. They're the one they're the ones who taught us how to use the cat hole, was it? The cat hole? And they're the ones who told us about the biodegradable bags. So your no, two can actually go over the toilet seating area. You just do what you need to do. You can go one in the regular, you know, cassette toilet, and then because you're gonna, it's the same as camping. It's just
Right.
different if you
Okay.
have it. And so the bag that's biodegradable, and then you bury it or you can dispose it at a campsite. So
Okay.
that's the experience we wanted them to have. Because I told Jay, I said, my mom said, well, now you have a she shed. I said, that's a little bit of that because I study in here and I meditate, or, so it's my little me time that I have. And I feel like I'm away from home, especially in the wintertime. I'm not in the main home, in the main house. But I wanted to share it. I said I could share just share it with family and just teach them, because a lot of it was glamping, and it wasn't in our budget to make a glamping. Um, well, we have the farm in Mississippi, okay, but it was too far. It was too far from where we are to be able to have a handle on it. And it's just the two of us to make a whole entire glamping situation on the farm, which would be wonderful because it could be built differently. Maybe a container, like your windows. We love your windows. So I love the windows that you have. So if I
Oh,
had
thank you.
had something built like that, I would love the top to be out so that you can see the sky. We talked about that, the sky, the stars at night. We didn't do that quite here because it's we're not in a rural area. We're not in a rural area, but the experience is still the same. It's still the same to be able to get a glimpse of what camping may be like. Because when I told my sister, she says, "What? Explain the toilet to me again." So and she understood it. She understood. But yeah, it's just a new way to camp. I mean, it's a way to camp, glamp. It's an option
Okay.
so that I didn't have to put original plumbing in.
I got you. So I see someone else said it's hard to hear me, that I'm much softer speaking than my guest. So I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on this morning with my AirPods, and I'm not exactly sure how to fix it. So I hope that you've
Uh-oh.
been able to hear enough of the conversation. So thank you for the share of the Glamping Tiny House. And so your intentions at some point towards the spring are to also share this on Airbnb, right?
Part-time, and it's only going to be
Part time.
seasonal because it's cold, even though there's heat in here. Um, we don't want it to take away from us our original plan of what we've been doing is snowbirding. So that January, February,
Understood.
March,
Yeah.
and so April. So that's why it has to be seasonal. I was like, okay, we can do this, but it's got to be only like 8 months out of a year and only part-time because I didn't want it to feel like a job. I still want to be able to use it as a teaching mechanism, or to be able to do something virtually. I haven't figured that out yet, how I want to virtually teach. So I may be coming to
It's coming. It's coming. That's good. I'm glad to hear that it's coming. Um, what's one question that I didn't ask you that you wish I would have asked you as we've been talking about your journey? About the RV life, getting there, about the glamping tiny house.
I can't think of anything really that you didn't ask.
If you had to sum up, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
um the journey's been great for me. Ever since not only just the renovation and the van life and being in nature and healing. We hear a lot about self-care. Here I go. Right. We hear a lot about self-care and mental health. And as you mentioned, like we talk about being empty nesters. But there's I don't see it talked about much in our community much, that empty nest. It's called an empty nest syndrome. I guess clinically it's not up there where it's that they regularly recognize it as anything clinical, but being a mom, and then being an empty nester,
Mm-hmm.
It it really, this whole journey we've taken, it really helped because you don't hear much of it. I didn't see my mom, boohooing, crying, or your kid is, they're either off to college or they have their own lives. We know that. But then it was just, okay, what do I do now? I can go back to work, I
Finding
can
yourself.
travel,
Yeah.
and it helped. It helped. Learning more about nature. I was scared to hike. I was so scared of bears. Um, so I had to, and scared of the dark at nighttime, like in the big areas if it wasn't my backyard or our property or something. But this whole journey has helped that as well. It has helped because you do start your life over, and you're thinking, okay, what do I do? And it's you
It's
can
almost like
create.
figuring out who you are after
Yeah,
your
and
child
I
is
had to,
gone. You
and
have
this
to
was
figure
all
out who you are.
creating the life we wanted to live. So the snowbirding was taking place, the leaving for the holidays, because you don't have the little ones at home anymore who are opening up, gifts. So there is more behind those little squares that you see on Instagram, but being out in nature and you got a lot of time to sit with yourself and think. Journaling as well, that helped too. But like I actually did a post on that as far as the holidays and empty nesting. And I think that's why I talk about that a lot, is that you can create the life that you want to live. And I believe creating the life that you want to live is just as important as creating um, a space a great space that you want to live in as well.
Absolutely.
But for me, that was one of the things. So it wasn't all, it was happy. I had some times where it's just like, I wouldn't say unhappy, but there were some times I was just like, this helps. This does help the empty nest syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it does. I don't know if have you ever experienced that?
Oh, absolutely. When my daughter left so I was a single mom, and it had been just my daughter and I for a very long time. And when she left to go to undergrad, that first week she was gone, I was physically ill. The first week she was gone,
Right.
I was
Yeah.
physically ill, and then
Yeah.
I actually relocated to be closer. I in the beginning I was
Oh.
like 6 hours away from her, and I relocated to be 2 hours closer to her because I had she was fine. Like she was fine. It was
They
me.
always are.
It was me. But then it was the same learning, figuring out who I was as Jewel versus always having been mom and in mom mode and making sure she was okay. And I figured it out, and it's been a beautiful journey because still being of young enough age to kind of figure it out and navigate and do some
Yes.
things differently while she's grown. But I can totally relate to that because in the beginning I didn't know what to do with myself because I had been, full time mom, full focused mom for
Yes.
so long. So I
Yes.
understand that completely.
Did you do
Um,
any solo traveling? Because that's
I
what
did.
I started doing. Yeah, this journey helped me do a lot more solo traveling. It's like I have Jay. And then my mom did ask me, she says, how are you feeling lonely? You got a husband. You can be married and be
Now we
going
get
through
ready.
that.
Look, now we get ready to go into a whole different conversation.
Okay.
Now
But yeah,
we get ready to go into
that's
marriage tips,
Marriage counseling.
marriage
marriage. No,
counseling,
no, not marriage
marriage
counseling.
counseling,
That's, we always say that we're friends first, business partners, and then marriage. So friends,
mates.
partners, marriage. But yeah,
That's beautiful.
you
That's
work through it.
beautiful.
This is my
Absolutely.
buddy here.
So tell the viewers, and I'm going to share all of this information about how to find you, information about your home in the description on YouTube. But tell everyone how they can find you on social media.
We're on Butterfly Lifers on Instagram,
Butterfly
and
Lifers.
then Butterfly Lifers. That's more of the van life, the travels that we do, van life, glamping, with the travels, and then the Glamping Tiny Houses. That's where you'll see more. We'll be showing the home there. And then when I prepare for a guest to come, and
We'll
the
be
just
watching
the
that on the
yeah,
Glamping Tiny House.
yeah, what goes
Yeah.
into it, how you cook in it. I'm so excited to show. I'm not the best cook, but I do, we
Your
we
pictures
we do
always
okay.
look
Jay does.
great.
So yeah, so I will. Yeah, it's the Glamping Tiny House. It has some before and after photos on there, but the van life, the travels, that's on Butterfly Lifers.
Okay. Well, I
Yes.
anything else you all want to share? I asked, was there anything else, a question that I asked that I didn't ask, or something that you want to share before we say our so longs?
Like, well, do you
The only thing I would add is
go
just
for it?
it's been for me. It's been between the van, between the cabin that we as we call it. It's just been seeing what I can physically do myself. You know, seeing things that I can build, seeing things that I can learn about, and then and make happen. Has done a lot for me. Like she says, creating a space. Well, it was it was a learning experience for me to be able to build the space. Something that maybe I didn't think I could do, but it actually came to be, and I actually like the way it turned out.
He said
Absolutely.
he likes when I make the design. So the design for the van created, and then the design for the glamping house. But I would tell anyone, just try it. Create the life you want. You
Even
just go
starting
for it.
small, starting where you are, starting small, and then working
Exactly.
toward getting there.
And see how you like it, and just see how you like it, because
Absolutely.
yeah, just how you like it.
Well,
I
Vaughn
think
and
that's
Jay,
important.
I thank you both so much for spending your Sunday morning with me.
Thank you for
And
helping me go live.
absolutely, you did just fine. You did just fine. So, I want to ask everyone to continue following this series. This is the Creating Home, a tiny house series. And on alternating Sundays, I'm either in conversation with someone on their intimate space, talking about their journey within the tiny house movement, their space. And then the following Sunday, I am hosting What's Your Question, where I am answering some of the frequently asked questions that I am asked either on Instagram or on YouTube, and I try to answer some of those questions to help everyone navigate the journey. So, thank you all very much for joining us today, and we will talk to you all soon. Have a great rest of your
Thank
Sunday.
you for having us, and thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Okay, let's see. How did you feel?
Are we?
You did what? We are.
Are you off? I don't hear your puppies.
Let's see.
I was waiting.